Okay, I think you're going to go ahead and start. Thank you for that quote. All right. Hello, everybody. Sorry, we were just waiting for some more people to show up and also just trying to figure out some hosting stuff because we're going to be breaking up into breakout rooms today. How is everybody? Doing okay?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, wonderful. Oh, there we go. We got 2 more people joining. I see some new faces today, so welcome. I know some of you couldn't make it Monday, so we're happy to have you here today. Last time, for those of you who weren't here, we did some introductions. We talked about our superpowers and why we're in this class together. And then all together, we set some ground rules and values that we want to form our community around. So there's a list of values that I added to our course outline. So if you guys are interested, you can check that out. And today, we were all supposed to be have browsed a couple articles about active listening or deep listening. So today we're going to be doing some exercises about that. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Okay, can everybody see?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is just a little word cloud that I made off of the values that you all shared last time. And like I said, I uploaded all of the values to the course outline and they were all really wonderful, so thank you. And all of these will definitely come handy when we actually start talking about community engagement as well. All right, so remember how I asked everyone to do a little survey about like something we called an exit ticket, where you either asked a question, shared an insight, and told us something you want to explore further. These are all of your answers. They were anonymous, and I got some really good feedback from everybody, so I wanted to just put it out here. I won't read them through, but you're all welcome to check out the PowerPoint after class and have a more detailed read. So these were some of your questions. I really love the very first one. It asked, how can we combine our unique superpowers to tackle a complex issue? We're definitely going to be doing some more introspective, self-explorative exercises that's going to be thinking about like, how can you bring your unique talents, strengths, and superpowers to tackle complex issues? So I love that question. Here are some of the insights and exploration responses we got. You were interested to figure out more of this unpacking concept. That's what I've been calling our more reflective conversations on the course outline. Someone said there's so many problems that need solving, it's hard to focus on one. That's definitely a real challenge, and we're going to be talking about that later on as well. Someone said they want to learn more about brainstorming techniques. We will 100% go into detail about how to brainstorm and also how to facilitate brainstorming sessions. So that's something we'll do. This was a very nice addition. I think this was from someone who couldn't make it to class. Someone said maybe we should add bringing empathy first as a value. So I added that in our value list as well. And then last one I'll share out loud is someone said being aware when doing nothing or less is beneficial too. That's definitely a really good reminder. When we say community engagement, everybody thinks doing something is better than doing nothing, but sometimes doing nothing might be the best solution or the best approach from you personally if someone else is already doing something or you need to have a different approach. So those were some of the stuff I liked, I want to share with you. You're free to have a read yourself as well. Okay, enough of me talking. So hopefully everyone had a chance to look at some of the active listening readings, or if you have any personal experience with it. I wanted everyone to have a chance to share some of your insights, tell me some things you've highlighted or some tips that stuck with you. You can say them out loud, but also drop them in the Zoom chat. Any insights, highlights, or takeaways from the active listening readings or from your personal experience? Bless you.
Thanks.
Anybody would like to share anything that was interesting?
Hello.
Hi.
The idea of like connecting with your body and your inner sensations when like listening, so that you kind of absorb the most out of your own body, your own feelings, and your own environment.
Definitely, that's a great one.
Can I go next?
Yes, please.
Okay, one of the articles talk about insatisfying communication, and they kind of influence our relationship with everybody around us, and how can we change? The article talk about how can we change not to have insatisfying communication.
How can we change to have more like satisfying, you said? You're muted.
I'm sorry. The article talk about insatisfying communication and how this is gonna influence our relationship with everybody around us. So I wonder, how can we change that?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm seeing some stuff from the chat as well. Theo said Alexander technique is an important method. That was in the last article. I definitely agree. I also really like the one that's about focusing. Lana said, good listeners are open-minded, interested, and focused on what purpose, interest, or need motivates the speaker. And Lisa said, the amount of time you should spend prior to listening to set yourself up just to be able to listen was very surprising. I definitely agree. That was something I think, so that article is from a magazine called Mindful, and it talks a lot about mindfulness practices, and that's similar to what Susan just said about connecting with your body and your own sensations. Mindfulness is being aware not just of your surroundings, but also being aware of your own body, your thoughts, your feelings, and using that awareness to be a better speaker. And a lot of you are sharing a lot of insights from that one article, so I'm glad I included that. Laquanda said, from her daughter, good listeners restate what the speaker said. Definitely, that's an important technique that they mentioned. Any other tips you guys remember they said when you should be doing when you're doing active listening? You can type them or say them out loud. Not only what we say as a response, but how we state it is also matters much. I really like to see this different in one of the articles. Thank you, Elena. Definitely, how we say something always matters. So that one was very important. They talked about the importance of phrasing things in a way that made people feel like they weren't being judged, but they were being heard. I think that was a good one. Grayson said, told I when doing the reading, if people use some of these towards me, like the comparing body language to what's actually being said, I would be very uncomfortable because I feel like I was being analyzed. Yeah, that's correct. I agree. Some of like the tips that they're saying, I think it's more of an introspective thing. Like, I don't think those are things that could make someone feel uncomfortable if you just said like, oh, this is how your body language appears. So I definitely agree. But sometimes it's important, even like personally, to make sure you're like being open and responsive and that you are open to conversation. But body language can be very important. All right, I'm getting more. Open, yeah, go ahead.
Actually, there's a very interesting technique that I've learned about just outside of this that allows you to just overall be in a happier mood or just prime you to be more open and active to others. And it involves the psychology of making a smile or frowning. So this scientist had people take a pencil, put it between their teeth like that. So by doing that, you're actually activating the muscles that are forcing you to smile. So if you people that do this for an hour have an overall happier outlook. Whereas if you put the pencil between your lips like this, you're actually using the same muscles as frowning, and people who do that have an overall less positive outlook. So, I just thought this was very interesting, like forcing yourself to smile like this.
Thank you for sharing that. Actually, so I am a biology major, and the science behind that is from muscle memory. You can basically motivate, send signals to your brain to release some hormones that are associated to that muscle memory. So when you're smiling, the act of smiling can make the happiness hormones come out, and similar to frowning as well. So usually we think it's the other way around, like you get the serotonin, the happiness hormone first, and then you smile. But sometimes you can trick your brain. If you smile, you can release that hormone. So that's a really interesting thing. I didn't hear about the pencil thing before, but that's sort of the biology behind it. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to start a new slide here because you all said some wonderful stuff and there was a lot. I think we've read all of the ones in this slide. Here we go. Here, these are all the stuff you wrote in the chats. So people said, if people use some of these towards me, this is the body language one we talked about. Here's the second one. Open, clear spaces are important, so the environment matters as much as the people listening. I definitely agree, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to do some of these stuff online on Zoom, because so much of our lives are digitally placed now, a lot of our conversations. But definitely, open, clear spaces are very valuable. Create a safe atmosphere for the speaker to feel comfortable. Suspension of the me web and prioritizing the other person, but somewhat paradoxically tuning in more to yourself. Definitely there's, they also mentioned this, that it's a paradox that you need to be more aware of yourself, but also focus on the other person. We're going to be doing a little bit of an exercise today that's hopefully going to cover both of them. But one of the most valuable things they do mention is like suspension of the me web. Just stop thinking about what you feel or what you think about a situation and really pay attention to what the other person is saying. Here's more. Good listeners rely on their felt senses for insights into a situation. Definitely allowing yourself the time and space to fully absorb what people say. This was one of the most foundational things the articles mentioned. Listen to yourself before listening to others. This was one of the mindfulness components. You need to be aware of how you feel and think and how you're situated to be able to open your mind to other people. I think this was Paige.
Yes.
Yes, so Paige said, having done some Alexander. Am I right, Paige? Was this you?
Yes. Sorry.
All right. Continuing to learn. I feel this is very true. Tuning in is a subtle but powerful thing that you can learn more and more and bring to your life. Demonstrating empathy. This was also one of our values that we stated in our first lesson. Body-mind connection. We usually think mind-body. With mind first, connection to physical self is valuable. All right. I think that was a lot of very wonderful tips, and I'm really happy you all took some stuff away from the articles. Did you generally enjoy them? Was this a new concept for any of you?
Not really. At least not for me. This was kind of things you have to do like in therapy sessions. Like they have those open spaces. They don't interrupt you, allow you to speak your mind. So so that is in itself a deep listening exercise.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of this comes from, like, we're talking about being a good listener, and that's going to apply to a lot of situations. So definitely, like, therapy could be a situation, and we're going to talk about how this can apply to community engagement. So I'm glad you have some experience with it. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Did you guys sort of enjoy the readings, or was it a good refresher at least?
I really liked them. I felt like it developed a lot of separate ideas for me and brought them together and brought them further into how they actually can be in your life and be good in your life. So I liked that a lot.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I wrote down some of the stuff that I thought were valuable in case some of you didn't have time to go through the readings. I'm just gonna briefly mention some of these stuff, remind you of some of the tips from the articles, and then we're going to be separating into breakout rooms to do an activity to get separately. So these were the definitions for active and deep listening. They said suspending our own thought processes and making a conscious effort to understand another person's position. This was also said when you guys were sharing your ideas from the readings. Definitely one of the bigger parts is just suspending self-oriented reactive thinking and opening your awareness to the unknown, unexpected, and what other people have to say. Another one was good listening seeks not just the surface, but the meaning, where the speaker, like the meaning of where the speaker is coming from, what purpose, interest, or need is motivating their speech. I think hopefully you can sort of see why this might be valuable for community engagement, not just inserting our own thoughts or our own purposes or our own background, but understanding the other person's purpose, interest, or need. I think this was a good description of a poor listener, and I actually recognized this does happen to me a lot in my conversations, and these are some of the things I don't enjoy in conversations. So one of the articles described poor listeners as being either downloading, so regurgitating information and preformed opinions, or they're in debate mode waiting for the first sign that you don't think like them, so they can jump to set you straight. I realize a lot of the conversations I don't enjoy is when people automatically start debating with me rather than conversing with me. So I thought that was very insightful. Oh yeah, definitely Laquanda. Laquanda said, not allowing you to finish your thought. That was also mentioned in one of the articles, is if somebody keeps interrupting you, if they seem like if they repeat things you're saying, but they're not correct, those are signs of someone who's not listening to you as well. All right, so these are some of the tips that the article shared about how to be an active listener. So it said, clear your mind, focus on your breath, and calm yourself for a few minutes before entering. This ties to what you all said about focusing on mind and consciousness. Using your body language, eye contact, and where appropriate, verbal cues, either short questions or comments. We can help the speaker formulate their thoughts, reassure them that they're being listened to. This says, stop talking and be aware of your body language. Signs of listening could be leaning towards the speaker, interested facial expression, maintaining good eye contact. So here I had a question for all of us that I would like to brainstorm together. These are all tips about body language that would be great in a room where you're sitting next to a person. But as we are all doing this stuff online, and a lot of our engagement experiences will potentially be online for the near future, a question is, what are signs of listening when conversations take place online? What are things that you have found that you enjoy when another person does, that you feel like you're being listened to? And you can drop them in the chat or say them out loud. Definitely, people should turn on their cameras. If they're looking at the camera directly, then it's a good sign that they're listening. I 100% agree. I've actually heard from a lot of faculty members that they felt anxious to give like lectures online, even though they've been teaching for like 3 decades, because they couldn't gauge students' interest or response because cameras weren't turned on. So that's a good one. Susan said, nodding along, smiling when the speaker tells a joke. That's correct. Lana said, active engagement. I would say like all of you typing responses, even though none of you are saying stuff out loud, is definitely a good sign for me. Thank you. Responding in a timely manner, not talking over each other, being present, engaging them in storytelling mode. Faith says just being present, then you can respond. Definitely, I agree. Another one is like when someone looks at the camera, we said, but also like when you don't notice someone looking at their phone or looking at the time, that sort of thing I think is valuable, especially when it's digital. Any other signs of listening online that make you feel like you're being heard? All right. Thank you, everybody, for sharing those. I'm going to download the chat and then make a little blurb with all of these stuff about online listening as well. And I'll share it right after class. Okay, cool. Here's a little bit more. They said, tips on how to engage in active listening. Make the mental space. Don't think about what you want to say. Focus on the speaker. That's, I think, number one. Use verbal cues to draw out speaker's thoughts. These are going to be important because we're going to practice this in a moment. So how did you feel about that? Tell me more. Or when you're summarizing or restating things, using phrases such as, you seem to feel that, or what I hear you saying is this right? Would it be fair to say that you feel blank? One of the things that they mentioned is don't make any of these phrases very final. Like don't say you feel this or you said this, but more like what I hear you saying. So I think this is how I understood it, that kind of approach. So make it softer so that the person doesn't feel judged, but sort of paraphrase what you think they said so they have a chance to clarify or elaborate. The purpose of active listening is to get people to tell you more and like explore an issue deeper. So it's important to paraphrase and ask for clarifications where you feel like you want people to explore something further. Okay.
Yes, I actually have a question. That was a good segue.
Yes.
So I am someone that really struggles with like attention. So my mind is always going like 100 miles per hour and I'm always thinking about a lot of different things. And even when I try to kind of connect with my body and kind of center myself, I still like have a hard time paying attention to things. So I'd be interested to talk about what I can do as someone with attention issues and also still deeply listen.
Thank you. So I can talk a little bit about it and I can recommend some readings and practices afterwards. And if anybody has any information about mindfulness, that kind of stuff, feel free to put them in the chat or send it to our Slack channel after. I think everybody would benefit from that. So one of the things, Susan, that were mentioned in the articles, I think one of the most important things is the mindfulness aspect. So they said, like, if you know an important interview or a conversation is coming up, take the time to prepare yourself mentally and physically beforehand. So focus on your sensations, focus on how your body is feeling, focus on what your thoughts are, and then try to sort of clear that headspace through focusing on getting your body to relax, getting your mind to settle down. And I think one of the most important things, especially because Susan is my roommate, and I know her personally, but she's a very busy person and she does like 20 things in a day. So I think one of the more important things is when you need to be in a situation where it's valuable to understand the other person clearly, to take that time beforehand to decompress and really focus and take a moment. And that can really help you focus when you're having the conversation. And all of the articles mentioned this, but also like for me too, active listening is a skill that develops and you get more tuned into it. And I'm certainly still a learner, and I like try to practice this a lot. But I am no way or shape an expert. So I think this is something that you just develop, and you learn skills that can help you settle yourself as well. But mindfulness, that pre-preparation, is an important aspect. Even if anybody has any recommendations, feel free to shout them out as well. All right. Like I said, feel free to drop stuff in the chat or in Slack if you have any more recommendations. But that was a great question, Susan, because we're actually going to start with doing a little bit of a sort of decompressing. This is all text from the third article from the Mindful magazine. I just copy pasted them here for the sake of accessibility, but I'll read them through so you don't have to reread any of this. We're going to start doing the third activity from that reading, which was called focusing, which is basically when you do an active listening exercise and there's a focuser and a listener. And the focuser is the person who's exploring and talking, and the listener is the person that prompts them, urges them to dive deeper. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to bring the partnerships, with each partner taking turns, focusing and listening. Listener's job is simply to be present, and by their presence to hold a space for the other person to explore their felt senses and chosen issues. It's not the listener's job to be helpful, to problem solve or commiserate or evaluate. Remember, when we were talking about values, someone said sometimes doing nothing is better than doing something or trying to problem solve. This is one of those times. But simply be mindfully present, including being mindful of their own felt senses as they arise. This is talking a little bit more about the tips, but we already covered those. So it says, when assisted in this way, most people discover that they're able to go and stay at a deeper level in themselves than if they were ruminating alone. So that's what we're going to try doing today in a short sort of one-on-one that you guys are going to have in breakouts. So before we get there, we're going to take the time and do a warm-up exercise. So we're going to do this exercise that the article called clearing a space. Clearing a space of open receptivity before directing attention to a particular project or issue. It can be done at any time or place, and it's especially useful when one is stressed or facing a challenge. So I'm going to be reading this, and you guys can just tune into me and close your eyes if you choose to. All right, here we go. First, relax. Close your eyes and bring awareness to your body. Do a brief body scan to notice any places that might appreciate a moment of caring attention and unwinding. Then, become aware of your body as a whole, sensing how it feels to be present and resting on solid earth. Whether we're on a chair, a cushion, or on the grass, earth is always there supporting us. Trust it and relax. See if you can find a level of simple presence, a sense of basing well-being that's always there, regardless of life's ever-changing textures. Now, bring awareness into the torso region. From your neck, down from your spine, all the way down to your bottom, and move your awareness gently around this three-dimensional alive space. As you do so, notice any felt senses, subtle sensations that have a certain tangible quality. Hard or soft, smooth or jagged, calm or jittery, warm or cool, still or moving, and so forth. Don't spend more than a few moments with any one felt sense, and if your discursive mind goes into gear, gently notice that and return to your bodily sensed inner experience. Even if you don't find anything that you think is a felt sense, notice the sensation of not finding it. Taking this moment is like clearing a workspace on a messy desk, knowing the papers you file away will be there when you're ready to attend to them. You may find it helpful to imagine actually placing each concern you find somewhere outside of your body. With these concerns out of the way, filed away, rest in a sense of deep calm and receptive openness until it feels right to move on. So take your time, stay in this relaxed moment, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending that warm-up exercise with me. This is a very small exercise that you can do that's a part of something I've been calling mindfulness. There's many more ways you can do this. This was just a warm-up so we can hop into our conversations. So for the rest of the class, which is about 25 to 30 minutes, we're going to be doing an active listening exercise. So following our discussion on the warm-up, we'll split into breakout rooms in pairs and take turns being the focuser and the listener. Each of you will take about 12 to 15 minutes, and you will explore a conversation following these prompts. I leave this up and also put these in the chat. So these are the 3 prompts that the focuser should be thinking about. What does engagement mean to me? How do I apply empathy and active listening in my conversations? And why is listening to others powerful for community engagement and or problem solving? I'll send an announcement through the chat to your breakout rooms when it's time to switch who the listener and the focuser is, and when it's time to come back to the main room. So when you're put into the breakout room, one of you can start as the focuser, and then when I say switch, you guys should switch, and that person should be the listener. Zoe, could you start the breakout rooms, please? And meanwhile, if anyone has any questions, feel free to say them.
Sure thing. I will send you off now. 1